Born Under the Red Star by Lynn and Dave. Dave instructed, write a novel about a North Korean young man who grew up in North Korea and tell about the hardships he went through as a child and teenager, but he thought he somehow could make his parents proud if he could be a great soldier. He entered the army but never seemed to accomplish much until he was told he would go on an important mission. Tell how he found himself in Russia and then finally he ended up in a foxhole in Ukraine in what seemed like a living hell, with bombs going off everywhere and he saw things that were beyond comprehension. Describe the human carnage and what he saw and what he felt until he was shot and he died there in that foxhole. Tell about the person clad in white in heaven who told him he failed and he had to go back and try again, this time reincarnated. ChatGPT said, Chapter 1, Born Under the Red Star. Jong-soo was born on a bitter winter night in the shadow of Mount Pictou, the sacred mountain revered as the mythical birthplace of North Korea's first leader. His father worked long hours at a factory, his hands gnarled from years of labor, while his mother tended a small garden in the family's dirt yard, struggling to coax life from the frozen earth. Food was always scarce, smiles even scarcer. Yet Jong-soo's parents spoke with pride of their country and its leaders, urging him to grow up strong and loyal. Jong-soo learned early the meaning of sacrifice. At school he memorized slogans praising the great leader and endured days without lunch. His stomach growled as he sat through endless lectures about the superiority of his homeland. Outside of school, he and his friends would gather scraps of wood to fuel the family's cooking fire. On cold nights, Jong-soo would lie awake, shivering beneath thin blankets, dreaming of a better life for his parents. He vowed that one day he would make them proud. Chapter 2, The Soldier's Path. At 18, Jong-soo enlisted in the Korean People's Army. Filled with hope and determination, he was handed an old rifle and trained in endless drills, his every move scrutinized by stern officers. Despite his best efforts, Jong-soo often found himself falling short. His aim was mediocre, his endurance lacking, and his commanding officers often scowled at his performance. Years passed, and Jong-soo remained a low-ranking soldier, disillusioned, but clinging to the hope that his big moment would come. One day it did. An officer summoned him, telling him he had been chosen for a mission of utmost importance. Jong-soo's chest swelled with pride, finally his chance to serve his country in a way that mattered. Chapter 3, Into the Unknown. Jong-soo found himself on a train bound for Russia. The mission details were vague, but the journey was long and filled with unease. He and his comrades were cold and silent, their thoughts clouded with uncertainty. Upon arrival, they were briefed. They would be deployed to Ukraine to aid Russian forces in the escalating conflict. Jong-soo's unit was sent to the front lines. The language was foreign, the terrain unrecognizable, and the war brutal beyond imagination. He spent days in a foxhole, huddled with fellow soldiers, surrounded by the cacophony of gunfire and explosions. The ground shook with force of artillery strikes, and the air reeked of blood, sweat, and fear. Chapter 4, Hell on Earth. One night the sky erupted in a fiery display as bombs rained down around them. Jong-soo saw comrades torn apart, their screams swallowed by the thunder of war. A boy not much older than Jong-soo clutched a picture of his family as he bled out beside him. The horrors of the battlefield overwhelmed Jong-soo's mind. He thought of his parents, wondering if they would ever know how and where he died. A sniper's bullet found him in the chaos, ripping through his chest. As he lay in the freezing mud, his vision fading, Jong-soo felt a strange peace. The noise of the battlefield receded, and he closed his eyes for what he thought was the last time. Chapter 5, A Second Chance. When Jong-soo opened his eyes, he was no longer in the foxhole. He stood in a realm of blinding white light. A figure clad in flowing robes and radiating calm approached him. You have failed, the figure said gently. Not because you died, but because you lived without understanding the value of life beyond your own duty. You must go back and try again. Jong-soo felt a surge of fear and confusion. Back to where? The figure smiled faintly. You will not return as the man you were. You will be reborn, given a new chance to find meaning and purpose beyond the chains of ideology and fear. Jong-soo felt a pull, a force drawing him away from the light. His memories of the war, the suffering, and the figure's words faded as he was cast into a new existence. Epilogue. The cycle continues. In a small village in South Korea, a baby cried out, its first breaths of life filling the air. The child's parents, farmers working under the open sky, cradled him with love. The boy, now freed from the weight of his past life, would one day grow up with new challenges, new dreams, and another chance to make sense of a world both beautiful and cruel.